Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one I'm going to be covering the new Dark Tranquility record entitled Moment. This is a 12th studio-length album by the very long-running Swedish melodic death metal band Dark Tranquility, a comfort band of sorts for me. One of the big three of melodic death metal, alongside In Flames and At the Gates, and a major pioneer and driving force in the Gothenburg metal scene. And that is not to discredit the dozens of other great bands that come out of the Gothenburg scene. Dark Tranquility are nothing if they're not consistent. However, in recent times there's been an itch that's caused that consistency to give way to a thirst for going a little bit out of their own comfort zone. Melodies and general harmonious riff styles in the way of atmosphere have always been a staple for this style, yes, but on their last album, Atoma, many tracks exhibited these new beautiful crescendos and cleanly sung vocals and just a general moodier atmosphere that served as a cloak, sort of a dense fog. The developments in Dark Tranquility embodying, if not adopting, the influences outside of their general style leaves them sounding sort of like Catatonia or late stage Opeth or, say, Paradise Lost. Even though albums that push past the 40-minute mark are not unfamiliar territory for Dark Tranquility, from the outside looking in, a record that is 50 minutes long can seem a bit bloated or long-winded. Surprisingly though, this record is very comparable to Atoma, with the band serving up a meeting of these styles into a non-innovative but still very dazzlingly intoxicating album. New guitarists have not done too much in terms of tonality change. Perhaps micro bits just feel a tad bit different in terms of the playing technique, but don't be alarmed of any sort of major alteration. You're not gonna find it here. In my opinion, Moment functions best when it's at its most crisp progressions. The switch up from powerful heavy growls to harrowing and soaring clean vocals on tracks such as Standstill and Remain in the Unknown just blur incredibly. And I attribute a lot of that blending to Mikael Stanne. In melodic death metal, I would say that I still prefer Johan Hägg as a frontman, but that's just me. But strictly speaking, in vocal capability alone, Mikael slides so effortlessly between his clean vocals, which gives the mix such a fullness to it in the resonance department, and these growls that just ring out like sharp pins and needles that are giving improper acupuncture. Tracks that dwell more so in the realm of rudimentary melodic death metal are the times when this record can run the risk of sounding too much alike. Strictly heavier tracks like a drawn-out Exit or Transient exhibit this, and I think when Dark Tranquility narrows themselves down to a single-minded idea, that is when they undermine their own genius. Still, the musical breakdown on Transient is clever, runs nicely, very smooth. And the chuggy, catchy riffs on a drawn-out Exit showcase that even the quote-unquote weaker tracks in comparison still have that stickiness of catchy and strong songwriting. Because if Dark Tranquility has proven anything here, and for lack of a better term, this might sound cheesy, but as songwriters and as lyricists, they slap. They can sort of overcompensate in those departments for tracks that aren't entirely as stellar, or at least stellar in comparison. And on the front of lyricism, it's epic. It's at times over the top. Complements the moody atmosphere, has the brooding quality when it is necessary, and overall just complements this entire record in a very fitting way. Mikael carefully strings together these little vignettes that serve as equal parts soliloquies and these very theatrical odysseys through words. I won't read off any lyrics, but I will just say definitely read along if you end up checking this record out. You will not be disappointed in just how strong the words are. Now, unfortunately, I think one issue is Dark Tranquility dive headfirst into fatigue, because as it progresses towards its final half, its last leg, its swan songs for lack of a better term, it is obvious that they do not have that many tricks left up their sleeve. The solos become more predictable, the riffs don't really offer anything in terms of freshness or other dynamic approaches to how they come across. The vocals lie solely where they have been this entire record, and there are no new production techniques that are injected to make something sound a little bit different. Like the radio effect that is tossed briefly on the vocals on the track In Truth Divided, it's not enough to diversify. Not to mention, speaking of the track In Truth Divided, it is very clear by this point that there are no more rabbits left to be pulled out of their hats. That makes the finale that should be hitting a separate plateau entirely to be an awesome ender not hit nearly as hard as it should, especially on a record that you become this committed to for this long from this consistent of a band, both sound-wise and performance-wise. As by now, the gracious instrumental just doesn't have the same wow factor as it did in the initial stages of this record. And I suppose that's just an issue you run with a record this long. I see this record very much in the same light as Swallow the Sun's record When a Shadow is Forced into the Light, which was my 2019 album of the year, but just without the late-stage ingenuity and general just constant amazingness. What's good about the dinginess and what's good about the moodiness is very much surface level. As I said at the start of this review, Dark Tranquility are nothing if they are not consistent, and in the future on records, the only thing that I genuinely believe is undermining them consistently is the fatigue factor, especially on some of the more stereotypical, rudimentary, melodic death metal tracks that don't do nearly enough to set themselves apart not only from their own records, but other contemporary bands that are in the genre, which causes a lot of people to be detractors of melodic death metal in the very first place. So in the future, I would just love to hear more production techniques, maybe different sort of vocal techniques or riff writing, or not feeling like they have to slide into solos nearly as much as they do. But without a doubt, past all these minor nitpicks and in the grander scheme of things, in comparison to what's good about this record, they are very minor. This is one of the better melodic death metal records that have come out this year. I've heard some others that I have enjoyed, just not really covered, but Dark Tranquility is always a means to celebrate because they've been around so long and they've always been very good at what they've done. They've never really released a full-on dud, and while I do very much prefer their last record over this one, it's still a good outing that I suggest to people that want to get more into Dark Tranquility or have enjoyed their material in the past or find themselves being an avid fan of melodic death metal as a whole. I'm going to be giving this album a 7 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Dark Tranquility record, Moment? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.